Morning, everybody. I'd like to call Personnel Committee to order. Roll call.
Mr. Seingard.
Here.
Mr. Benson.
Here.
Ms. Vedder. Mrs. Geiger.
Here.
Mrs. Labuda.
Here.
Okay. I guess there's no human rights. Want to go? We need to go into executive. You want to do that first?
Executive session two.
Jim is available, he's available.
Yeah, let me go.
Okay. Okay.
I'm good.
Thanks for your input.
Thank you for
It's been my pleasure. Lovely to see everyone. Have a good day.
No more copies of, you sent out all the forms, or that's done
Oh,
already?
that's
right?
done. We're closed. We're closed. I guess we gotta, Ed and I will chat. We have an insurance issue.
Okay.
Oh, and
As long as
Gatsby
you
for
do
you,
personnel.
Gatsby for you, insurance for you.
Maximus for you.
I'm working on that.
It's, what?
You want to do that? Well, your topic is executive.
It's
subject.
executive, yes, it's,
Okay.
But my
Who's
only,
doing the school resource?
Well, I can discuss the meeting. We could see if the sheriff shows up, but it's something, we had a meeting with BOCES and I think we wanted to talk about options with some of the schools looking to have some resource officers in their school.
Okay.
Are we gonna
So
be-
let's go into a motion
Are we
to
gonna be
exec.
voting on anything? That's my question.
After? No, there's nothing.
Before or after?
No.
During or after?
No,
There's no resolution.
there's no resolution.
what my problem with going to an executive, there's only 4 of us here, you're gonna have to repeat it again, so can we wait till another meeting today? Cause Alan and Kitty and the rest of them should be here.
I'm not sure about Jim's availability, I know he's in the middle of he's starting.
Because I don't like to,
negotiations at
then we're gonna have to
9:30.
tell them what was said in executive, which I don't like that, cause you may miss something.
No, I agree with you, and it's.
Well, why don't we go, I
Well,
believe
well,
that
let's-
Scott and Alan are in the building, they're in a meeting in planning. Should we check to see how long they're gonna be?
Well,
Kitty
that-
should be here too,
well,
everybody
that's
should be.
one
Danny,
question.
you wanna open the
The
floor?
other question is, are the committees gonna be staying the same? If the committees aren't being the same, we shouldn't be voting on anything until those committees are appointed.
Well,
We're not
there's
We're
voting.
not voting on anything.
I'm just
No
saying.
There's not gonna be a vote on this, but I think it's something that involves the legislature as a whole.
That's fine.
And that's why everybody should be at this meeting. Could,
Most done, because we need them.
That was long.
And unlock it.
That's why he's the head of DPW.
That's right.
He knows how to do that
He's
stuff.
got the keys to the
All right,
kingdom.
what about Alan?
No, that's Paul Bottaro and Jim Hammond.
Oh, Alan's not there? Okay. Oh, okay, it wasn't there. Okay, thank you. Bye.
So who's
Only
there?
Scott.
Only Scott?
right, I'm
I
not,
can, I can check with Jim
Yeah,
about
could
what
you-
his
yeah.
availability would be later today, what meeting would you?
Thursday, because I know Cora's out of town, she said she would
Okay.
be here, but I think that everybody should hear it, otherwise you're gonna have to repeat the information, and some people may not get, and I just think.
Well, there were
that
2
everybody should-
issues, weren't there?
There's one involving staffing in LIU, and then yesterday I had a meeting, or labor management meeting with Teamsters about a request that they made, so there's 2 different,
Can it wait till Thursday, Josh?
yeah, there's no precedent.
You can wait till, if you don't
That-
mind,
that's
ask Jim
fine.
if, is anybody have a problem with that, cause like I said, I think that
Do it in.
there's only a couple of us here, it's not,
Executive.
everybody should hear it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there an executive committee meeting on Thursday? or no?
No.
No, I mean,
If we have to, we can call one, apparently.
Well, it could be after any meeting, that's not gonna
you
be.
could do it.
There's 6 of us now, so I think we should do
Well, I
it.
think Alan or at least Kitty should be here, unless you're gonna,
Do you want me to go out and call and see if one of them are?
Or in the
Well,
way,
Laura's
yes,
out of
why don't we
town,
do
she's
that?
not gonna be here.
You're still rolling.
Must be something.
Kitty, I don't know what's gonna happen with her. I talked to her yesterday, and her driveway is a frozen ice flow, and she didn't know if she could get out of there. We may not see her till sometime in late spring. We gotta send a
When
helicopter
it's
up.
50 this weekend and everything starts lower.
Yeah.
I mean, it could wait.
Yeah.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
I mean, otherwise, just have it go meet with Kitty now on Thursday, if you wanna do it that way.
Well, there's 6 of us here.
That's what I'm saying, but,
Yeah.
And Cora's not gonna be here, correct?
no, Cory's not gonna be here today.
Um, Well, we have, we have a grievance pending right now, so we just kinda, and I know that Ed is gonna be, approaching the legislature with a request to fill vacancies, so it's kinda timely. We'd
Scott,
like
you
to
have
get it-
no,
we'd like to have a discussion
you'll
this
discuss it
fine.
with Kitty and
Yeah,
let that,
I
yeah,
have no
I think we
problem.
should
As long as
proceed with it, I
Jim's
don't think we should wait,
Okay, and then
so.
just make sure that Ed or you go and speak to
And-
Kitty and Alan
and-
before, okay?
Yeah.
And Cora and Cindy, that we'll get that information to them.
Right,
I
that's a good idea.
meant,
You meant-
Cora,
Cora.
Kitty and Al.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I would go forward, I would at
Okay.
least get the
All right,
information.
Alan's here and Kitty's
Okay.
at exit 102.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay, who's gonna tell jokes?
Who's gonna what?
Tell jokes
Is there
until I
any
get.
public comment?
I will know, if I get to know.
I'm a legislator, I'm not public.
And what are you gonna, when you do go in executive session, when I get a motion in second in a little bit, what are you going in to discuss?
It's for
Linda?
litigation and
Potential
contract
litigation
negotiation.
and a contract negotiation request.
You're gonna need the phone up there to call Jim Romer?
Looked like it was on there, so.
Excuse me, Lindsay.
Wanna take a 10-minute break? You can turn it off and we'll just wait till I come.
All right.
Okay. Motion to go into executive?
No, oh, wait a minute.
No.
Alan has two, questions before we go into executive session.
Yeah, I just wanted an update on, I know resumes have been coming in for the planning commissioner as well as the director of personnel. And if Josh could just give us a sense of the timing for, I guess, the next steps, you know, in terms of that selection process.
Yeah, for both positions, the deadline is passed for resumes to have been submitted. I've kind of gone through initially the applicants on each. We were looking to schedule interviews in the next couple weeks, and hopefully we'll have, if we need to have second interviews end of the month, beginning of February, with resolutions potentially on a committee in February to have make appointments in February. The planning one, we're not under necessarily a strict deadline, but if you recall, the state at some point is gonna put pressure on us to make a move on the personnel officer position.
Yes, yeah.
So that one is more time sensitive, but my goal, potentially, if things work out the way I'm hoping, where you would have appointments for each in February.
I'll get back to you with my comments on the planning commission.
Okay.
Okay, motion to go into executive?
To
For what?
discuss
Change the other three days.
litigation and contract negotiation requests.
So,
There's two separate issues.
Second?
Two sep, yeah. Kathy?
And Kitty. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
All right, hold on a minute. Kathy, Kitty, 9:21. All right, now. stop it.
Ed, you want a copy so we can hang it? Can we close the door?
We don't have enough people. But there's no vote anyhow. So Josh, why don't you go over real quick, the school resource officer?
In December, myself, the sheriff and the other sheriff met with Superintendent of BOCES, Larry Thomas, and all the other school superintendents in the county were in attendance. And Mike basically was laid out and presented a case of potentially having school resource officers in the schools. There was two schools that don't have any kind of law enforcement in their building currently that are on board and would be willing to pay for their school resource officer, the deputy, for the days that they're in the building. That's Tri-Valley and Monticello. Livingston Manor had the superintendent express some desire to entertain it, but she had to talk to her board and see if there's gonna be funding available and a desire to do that. Liberty and Fallsburg already have their local police jurisdictions in their school districts, so they're already covered. And the balance didn't necessarily express a desire at this point. They were gonna go have a conversation with their board. So at this point, there's basically two schools that are ready and willing to sign up for September 1st of this year, having school resource officers in their building. obviously, and then this decision, they're in the just starting their budget process, so they kind of need to know. And then Mike also has an issue with that he would need to know because there's a March academy that would have deputies coming out in August that would allow them to be, Mike wouldn't have the two, if they were to create two deputies that are in the academy going into the schools, he'd have more senior people going. But then he would be able to use those two coming out of the academy to backfill the two that would be going into the schools. And I've had a conversation with Mike. I mean, there's a potential way. I mean, right now, obviously, you have two vacant deputies in the budget to the tune of about $200,000 for the two of them. One thought that Mike and I had talked about, and probably need to have a conversation with he's here, was potentially creating. Right now, he's got deputies manning the desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At one point back in the mid-2000s, he had dispatchers in his operation. There's about a $40,000 cost difference between the two. So the one thought would be is if you were to go and create two dispatch positions, you could use that savings to then fund the balance of the time that those school resource officers would be on our payroll, in essence, for the summer, Christmas break, Easter breaks. It's anytime they're not in the school. So that was the concept behind, and you'd have about a $50,000 cost you'd have to come up with this year, but then going forward you'd be saving about $46,000 because of the cost difference. So you'd have a one-time this year cost, but then down the road you'd be saving every year by doing this. And Mike would still have the same amount. He'd still get his two road patrol deputies that he doesn't have now. There'd be existing people coming off the desk going onto the road. And in some respects, it's better than having them to go to the academy. You get those immediately. If you could have a dispatcher come on board, you could then free up two deputies to go on road patrol. So that was the kind of high-level concept of I'm just doing two to be able to get two deputies in these schools. There's no resolution before you today. It was going to be an initial conversation. Obviously, we'll have to have more conversation and dialogue, but the goal would be potentially, if we're going to do anything, is to have something by resolution done this month, if possible, to kind of get Mike the ability to get people into the academy.
I just, because I missed it, so there's how many schools do we have in the county?
8.
8, okay, and how many have, you said Fallsburg
Liberty and
has,
Fallsburg.
Already have their resource officer? Is that correct?
Yeah, they have the Village of Liberty and
Okay,
Fallsburg.
and it's paid from the school district?
The schools pay,
Hold
Not
on,
all of
well,
it.
not all,
no,
but
who pays from Fallsburg and Liberty?
I don't know that we asked, but generally, I think Liberty, if I recall, was paying for the village. I don't know how much, what the arrangement is. Like right now, we have a person in our road patrol that works with BOCES.
Right, I know that,
And that would be
okay.
the kind of model we'd be looking at. They basically pay for every day, the cost of that deputy for every day they're on their campus, in their facility. It would end up being in the neighborhood of 70-75% reimbursed then.
Okay, but one of my questions and issues is I think if the schools feel that they need a resource officer or whatever in the school district, that's fine, but since they're now talking about their budget for the school districts, why aren't the schools putting in their budget?
Well, that's what they're gonna do.
If they would
But-
budget, they need to know, they would
10 weeks a
budget.
year when the school's open.
Okay, but.
It'd be our employee, they would budget for the days that they're gonna be in the school district.
Right,
But they feel and desire for these two at least, they wanna have a law enforcement person, not just to have a security guard, for the lack of a better term. They want someone that has some real power and law enforcement ability to come in and have more authority to be able to be in the school district. Some of them had toyed with having just security guards, but they have a desire to have a law enforcement.
okay, so then are the other schools gonna come and say they want the same
Do
thing?
o-
and then
do other
who-
schools have any resource from other law enforcement branches?
Well, Fallsburg and Liberty have their local.
So out of
County-
15, 2 have,
Okay.
But
There's
county's
only
not
8
the
school
county.
districts.
and Sullivan West has none now.
Really?
They used to
Not to my
have
knowledge,
state
no.
police.
They used to have state police, but over the past, I don't know what year exactly it was, but when the state was having their budget issues, they pulled the resource officers out of the schools.
So it's just 2 that we're talking about, and
Well,
the
right,
school
right
will
now,
reimburse-
Monticello and Fallsburg expressed and are committed to having one in their district.
No, Monticello and Tri-Valley.
Tri-Valley, I'm sorry, Monticello and Tri-Valley are committed to having one in their district.
But if the, okay, so if the schools all come to us eventually, then, I'm just saying that, I'm just curious why that, you say it's going in, the school's putting in their budget, correct? And they're gonna reimburse us how much?
75%.
It'd be on the order of
But the
77%.
sheriff would utilize those officers on
He would have,
non-school days.
he'd have them on
So
snow days and
there is a
Christmas
county
break and.
cost, so is there any idea of what that would be per officer? Do you have that?
Yeah, I mean, if a ballpark, a new deputy costs $100,000, so you, with all the training and all the uniform and everything, so you'd be in the neighborhood of $30,000 a deputy. The one thought that Mike and I had talked about is to offset some of that cost is instead, you go and create 2 dispatch positions that would cost $40,000 less per position. You use that savings to then offset the cost of the school resources officers when they're on our books, on our payroll, and when they're working for us.
Wouldn't another
But again, why don't the
benefit,
schools just put in their budget and it has their own?
wouldn't another benefit be the fact that we hire temporary summer people, that now we would have the resources from these policemen that would be able to fill those summer positions because they're full-time?
But they
They're already
wouldn't
in
cut
the
that back, would
budget.
they? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we'd have to talk with Mike, but that would be potentially one thing. Does he need necessarily 4 or 6 temporary positions if he's gonna have 2 people that he would have access for July and August in essence? He may be able to cut back on some of that funding for the temporary. There's 4 at about 15,000 apiece.
So I have a couple of questions. We have 8 school districts. 2 of the school districts already have police forces of sort in their thing. So that means 7, if we're including BOCES, do not have.
BOCES has,
BOCES does.
BOCES has one of our
Okay,
road
so
patrol
we've got
deputies.
6 schools that do not have. And of those 6 schools, at the present moment, 2 of them are looking to get.
Try
So
that
we
out.
still have a,
willing to budget and pay. The other ones would take them for free.
Yeah, they're committed to funding them for the days they're on their campus. Like I said, Livingston Manor, the superintendent for Livingston Manor, she had a desire and was expressing that she would prefer to have it, but she doesn't necessarily have authority from her board at this point. She had to go back and talk to her board to see if they would be willing to put money in their budget to fund that. So there's potentially a third, but you have 2 firm commitments and then a potential third.
okay, now on the separate side of this, even though it's discussed together, is the dispatcher who sits at the desk and does the desk
Well,
duty,
that
who's
was
deputy.
that was
I
a way,
need-
a concept on how to
But I
offset
wanna
the
have a
funding.
better, clearer understanding, what other jobs does that deputy who mans the desk 24 hours a day do besides dispatch? I'm sure that they have other tasks. that they-
Excuse me one second, I have a suggestion here. Number one, this is personnel, so it's creating the position. I think this should really be brought up in public safety, and if it's determined that we wanna create the position, to come back to personnel or go to executive. We're already a half hour late.
Oh, yeah,
And I think this conversation can go on, I'll let Alan go,
I just
but.
wanna, be on the record as saying that I think these resource officers are needed. I also have children in the district, the Monticello district, so I'm very familiar with the district. So if there wasn't, a need, that would be one thing, but I think there is, and the fact that the school districts are stepping up to the plate, I think we should try to work with them to make it happen sooner rather than later.
Because the schools put in their budget.
I mean, the dispatch
I
thing
know,
doesn't
they're
have to be
willing to do
married
that.
to this, Kitty.
They're
The
willing to
dispatch
pay
thing
that.
was just a concept on how to help offset that. In theory, if the board was willing and just wanted to fund school resource officers, you'd have to come up with ballpark 30,000 apiece for each school resource officer. The dispatch thing was just an attempt to offset that cost.
Is the DARE program disappearing? Cause that's where we have sheriff's deputies in the schools. I know the DARE program exists in Tri-Valley, it exists in all the schools, including Monticello.
But that's
So-
not somebody, they want there, somebody
That's
there
somebody
20.
there.
This would be someone there full-time from 8 until 3,
You're not gonna
whatever,
have
4
somebody there
o'clock
for
to.
all the
I don't know what
buildings
this, why
anyway.
this, why can't the school district just handle this themselves? Why they-
But they
I
need to
could
hire
tell,
somebody.
I could tell you in
Why is county
Fallsburg,
helping them?
unfortunately, it's
You either have to hire
utilized
county-
Let them hire us
frequently.
tomorrow. Let them hire retired
Fallsburg,
They want
I hate to say it, but
Certified.
unfortunately, the officer in Fallsburg is utilized quite frequently.
There's 2 officers.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Well, are you aware Sullivan West has no resource officer now? So in
They're coming.
conversations with them, were they at the table?
They were there. I think Mike has made an attempt to try to, if there's a request, they'll try to make a round and maybe hit a school one day every other week or so. But there's no one there full time. They may have someone that pops in
No, I'm
from
just
time to
wondering
time.
what they would say if they felt that it was.
She was at the
utilized.
superintendent was at the meeting and didn't necessarily say. I think they were all going to go back and have a conversation with their board. Two of them are, I think, already have had this conversation with their board, and I think their board is on board with it. But the other ones, I don't think have had the conversation, so they need to go back.
Say that 3 times.
They needed to go back and have a dialogue with their school board to see if they want a policing agency in their building, and if so, are they willing to fund it? To what level?
I
So,
think Roscoe said no.
Yeah,
But I mean, again, some of the smaller districts, I can maybe understand, they're not, the cost to the benefit may be not in there.
well, like I said
Let's go, I
earlier,
agree.
I think,
I do too, we're behind.
Josh, I'd like you to
Yeah.
have Mike work on it and get, commitments from the school and come back to public safety. And then, if there's a desire and there's a firm commitment, come back to personnel or go to executive and create the position. But obviously, we need to, and what tactic he wants to do. If he wants to go and have just regular patrol, or he wants to go and have dispatchers, have a firm proposal he wants, so we know what we need to create. But obviously, if he wants to go to the March school,
yeah,
we need to make a decision quickly.
correct.
Okay. Okay, any public comment? Motion to adjourn? Second?
Kidding.
All in favor? Thank you.
In the academy now, they're graduating?
No.